We're coming up to the end of the year. This is our episode before Christmas. Usually, Joe and I actually get together with some friends and air our grievances around the annual Festivus poll. But the Festivus poll is not designed for 6 feet apart at the moment. So
Also, it's missing too. I don't know where it went. I went to go look for it the other day, and it was just gone in the basement. So
how do you
I
lose
don't
the
know.
Festivus poll? How are we supposed to have Festivus now?
But I mean, I got the tiny little plastic one that Janine got me last year before, whatever it was. Um, so I still have that one at least, and I just got a big, ugly Christmas sweater that has Festivus on it, and then I got a T-shirt from last year, so that'll make up for it.
I guess we got to now air our grievances with sports to make up for this, don't we?
We might have to.
All right, so let's start with probably the biggest immediate news for sports, and that is the NHL and the NHL Players Association have agreed in principle to a January 13th restart to begin the 2020. Well, now the 2021 season, not the 2020-2021 season, just the 2021 season.
Yeah, and it's to be noted that the teams that made the playoff bubble will start practices after the 6 teams that didn't. So the 6 teams that didn't make it will start on December 31st, and the other 24 teams will then begin practicing on January 3rd.
Yeah, they are looking to start I believe it's a 56
game season.
56 game season on the 13th. So a little bit before Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Mm-hmm.
Some other notable dates. Contract extensions. The deadline for that is March 12th. The trade deadline is April 12th. The regular season ends on May 8th. With the playoffs starting shortly after that. So, if baseball is on time, and more on that in a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be going on at the exact same time that the Stanley Cup Finals are going on as usual.
Yes.
That timeline is more or less the same as it has been in the past. The Seattle expansion draft will be July 21st, and the NHL draft will go on from the 23rd to the 24th, with free agency beginning on the 28th of July. Joe, what do you think?
And they did have some built-in time just in case if games have to get rescheduled, so that they do have some cushions.
Which they most certainly will, because they are, for as with the NFL and the NFL and all the other sports, the bubble format does not work for a regular season. That they're going to their normal visit cities, travel and play there, but with modifications. That they are going to realign the divisions, because at the moment the Canadian border is still closed and will be closed for the foreseeable future. So to get around that for the hockey teams, they're going to be realigning into East, Central, West, and Canada divisions, more or less.
Yeah, and Canada's sort of got like a little bit of a possible hiccup, as Canada's a little bit stricter and smarter about how people are allowed to shuffle around so freely. So we're not sure if the Canadian teams will be allowed to intermingle and go cross country and play each other, or if they're going to maybe see if they can hub it in Edmonton, or if they have to relocate. And one of the relocations would be here in Jersey by the Devils. They would sort of like hub them over in that area in not Secaucus, Newark.
Secaucus has been long demolished.
Yes. So yeah, they might be here in Jersey. We might have all the Canadian teams.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's on a province by province basis, with the the most strict province being British Columbia, and the Vancouver Canucks being a issue that they are sorting out. That they're saying that they could still play in another city, so that even if the Canucks can't play in their home arena, that doesn't mean the All Canada division is dead. So it seems like playing in the Canada teams in Canada is their first and foremost option on the table.
Yeah. Actually, just like as a quick side note, you mentioned Vancouver and the Canucks, and apparently we'll get to it later when we get to baseball with Cleveland. But apparently the Orca logo for the Canucks is now apparently in some hot water for being deemed not very nice. But I thought Canuck was like a slang term for a Canadian too, so I don't know. I didn't even know their logo was super racist, but
how is an orca racist?
I don't know. I guess they put. I don't know. It's indigenous team names and logo.
That's it. We just have to be called teams. Washington football team, Cleveland baseball team, Vancouver hockey team. That's all we're allowed to.
Yeah, but what are those city names going to be called then? Because some of those cities are rooted in historical things that might not be very good.
Let's get back on hockey.
So New York. Okay.
Yeah. The other move, San Jose, their county has been extremely strict in letting no sports team plays at all. The San Francisco 49ers already had to move to Arizona to accompany that, and it shows on the quality of the field there. The San Jose Sharks are also expected to go down closer to the border and start the season in Arizona, but hopefully, as things improve, move back to San Jose for good solace for the 500 fans of the team as it embarks on its more or less rebuild.
Yeah, I'm super. I mean, the divisions haven't changed entirely too much. I mean, obviously, an all-Canadian division puts some East and West teams together. But for most of the stuff, most of the teams are like still fairly in their normal divisions. Really, the lone exception in the division with Buffalo, New Jersey, New York teams and whatnot. Boston's now sort of added to that division.
The New York plus Boston division.
It's a really tough division to begin with. I mean, last year's standings, the Devils finished with 68 points. They were not very good. The Rangers finished with 79 points. But their win total, they had 37 wins. The first place Washington Capitals had 41 wins. That's a 4-win difference for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. 4 wins separating 7 teams. You don't see that very often.
Yeah.
Like, that's completely insane. I mean, the Central was pretty good too last year in the Western Conference. We had 10 wins separating everybody. But still, that's a really tough division. The Rangers just got some like really good picks over these last couple of years. They're looking to be good. The Islanders are looking to build on a good run last year. Penguins still have Crosby. Capitals, they looked like, well, they lost Braden Holtby in free agency, but they got as a good backup former longtime New York Ranger Henrik Lundqvist. But some really sad news on him is he has a heart condition right now, so he is not allowed to play this year, which is really, really sad.
Yeah, and as with other major sports, they are still allowing players to opt out if they do not feel comfortable. But going to divisions, I think what you saying is probably right, with that being an incredibly tough East division. That'll also include the most likely include the Flyers, the Capitals, and Rally. But probably the worst division, the division to get the worst out of this is probably the West Division, because that's going all the way from now from Los Angeles all the way to Minnesota. So that is going to be an intense travel schedules for the Wild and the California teams going back and forth. Minnesota, it's if in this division turns out to be what it is, it's going to be closer to the Central Division teams than it is to its nearest West Division contenders.
Yeah,
it's like how the Braves were in the West Division for all those years.
It's the East is definitely going to have. Well, it's good and bad with the East. It's good that they're all fairly close to each other and they don't really need to travel too far.
But it's going to be hyper competitive.
It's competitive, but also there's a lot more people just in, like, I'm going to say the 13 original colonies, just on that East Coast over there. That's where most of the population is, and it's a lot where the virus is festering as well, too.
Yeah.
But also it's closer to the ocean, to where England's now apparently got a new strain of the virus, apparently. But that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but also being populated areas, they're going to be among the first to get large doses of the vaccine, which we have 2 of at the moment. So
yes,
it'll be what it'll be. How excited are you for the NHL to be back after we were starting to hear that it was getting the same labor problems that baseball has, with owners wanting to cut salary?
I love watching hockey. It's great. It's not. It's interesting because it's such a fast-moving sport, and a 2-goal lead is nothing in hockey. Scoring goals is super contagious. You can be up 3-0 with 5 minutes to go and blow the game, just because of the nature of hockey. Yeah, it happens in baseball, and you can see it in basketball when you're up by like 12 buckets, and then all of a sudden, like, the other team goes on a 20-3 run, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a tie game now. But hockey is it's not as high scoring as some of these other sports, where you have the opportunity to score every possible second. It's just amazing how fast, and the reaction times and everything. So I'm really excited for hockey to come back. I'm going to have to figure out a way to watch it, as I've talked about previous times, of television and cutting the cord and whatnot. So I got to figure out a way to watch hockey games this year. But this is definitely a big thing, because right now we're in a lull where baseball's not going on. It's only football. Basketball is just starting up now, and I always said the worst day of the year was the day after the All-Star game for MLB, because it was the only day of the year that one of the 4 major sports wasn't playing. And I guess we've just been conditioned to it because of the pandemic for 3 months over the summer, and now it sort of happened again, where it's just sort of like, I don't know. I need my sports back.
Yeah. That actually segues well into our next thing, which is about baseball and starting out. Because, stop me if you heard this one before, the players and the owners are fighting again, or at least sounds like.
Broken record.
Yeah. A report came out last week from Bob Nightingale that the owners want to push the season back until players coaches and staff are all vaccinated, which means one of 2 things. 1, they cut the line and get all negative press again, or 2, the season waits until May at the earliest. Now, this seems, on my opinion, rather silly, because you just played a season without a vaccine. The NFL badly played a season without a vaccine, and the NHL and the NBA are going to start a season without a vaccine. So what makes MLB special in needing a vaccine compared to the other three sports? What is so different that they can't work out something like they did over the summer?
Because baseball needs more attention. We talked about it. Football and basketball have their own prima donnas bringing attention to their sports. Baseball needs some attention grabbing and needs some headlines. I mean, the head coach for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish for college football, he's like, oh, well, if we get to the final game, we're not even going to show up because we don't want to play without our players' parents being allowed to fly over and watch the game. Like, things are happening right now. You can play without your parents watching you in person. Baseball just needs a call to attention. And honestly, this is sort of like, what was the hospital, Stanford, whatever it was, where they basically had like a big lobby gathering and were like, we should be getting the vaccine first, not the rich CEOs who are staying at home doing nothing. These baseball players have enough supplements to keep them healthy and fine. It's no laughing matter, like we saw with Freddie Freeman having 104 fever.
Yeah.
But these guys have enough money and enough resources to get them through. And if we learned anything from the 2019 Yankees, next man up has to just take the job. That's what the taxi squads and everything else.
Or next Marlin up.
Next Marlin.
With how many players they brought.
There's plenty of fish in the sea.
Yeah. And also, as I said, that the fact that they played the 2020 season in some manner undercuts the owner's argument, because they already proved they can play without a virus with some things. And to that end, the Players Association said, we are not in favor of delaying the season, and that they are going to start. Let me pull up that article. Where is it?
Yeah. So
now I can't find it, of course.
Naturally. Control H. Find the history. Yeah. So baseball, I think, should just be fine. I don't know if it's from an owner's standpoint where they're like, well, we're going to be losing money, so we might just delay the season and not lose as much and wait until the vaccine's all out. And
well,
then
you
can
you
fill
know
up the stadiums, but
you know how that is, that the owners have still refused to open up the books to show what their finances is, aside from the Braves, who, because they're owned by Turner Sports or Time Warner, that they have to show their books because they're a pseudo public company. The only thing we do know is that because of the 60-game shortened season and salaries being prorated, that player salaries dropped. I think it was $2.4 to $2.7 billion dollars, and with a notable increase in options being bought out. So that's a. But although they actually said if it was a full 162 game season, that salaries would have gone up in comparison to 2019, which was the first season in a long while to see salaries actually go down year to year on average. Found it. Statement issued by Bruce Meyer, who is the Player Association Senior Director of Collective Bargaining, says that, to be clear, quote, and as we've made clear to the league, players are planning on showing up for spring training on time for a full 162-game season as set forth in the collective bargaining agreement and the league's previously issued schedule, end quote. And that is the big thing. Unlike the NFL, the Players Association, the NBA PA, and the NHL PA, the MLB Players Association is a very strong union. And if they say that we're not going to take this demand without anything coming our way or at all, it's not going to happen. that with a collective bargaining agreement still in place at least for 1 year, the owners would have to give something back to the players in order to get their season delayed, whether it's extend the season a month and you're playing the World Series around Thanksgiving or later, or that it's a shortened season but the players are getting their full salaries not prorated to games.
Yeah, this is just some murky, muddy water that no one really wants to get into. It's just, I don't want to say it's too much of a headache.
No one wants to get into it, but they're probably gonna have to.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to figure stuff out because this is only hindering like free agency as well.
Yeah, as of this date, the 20th, not a single major free agent has signed in baseball. The biggest guy off the board so far is James McCann going to the Mets. None of the other no one higher on the top 50 list of MLB.
Especially even what's his name, the pitcher from Japan. That still hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, postings are a different breed. Those are ongoing until I think the 3rd.
Yeah, but still, there really hasn't been like too much talks about that because
true,
you don't know where you're going to end up and whatnot, or what's going to happen with the season, because you're going to be posted if you end up not playing in MLB and there's not a season, and it's like, well, I'm without a team at this point, but I just signed with one, but we don't have anything, so now I'm not making any money. So you got to figure out what you're going to do. Guys like Sir Didi Gregorius, he's waiting to see what happens with LeMahieu, because if the Yankees don't re-sign him, because they're like, what, $25 million apart?
Well, yeah, it's LeMahieu controls the middle infield board. Bauer controls sort of controls the starting pitching market. He controls the market for guys like Tanaka and maybe Paxton.
I was actually watching an interesting video about Bauer. They were talking about how, I think it was last year, or 2 years ago, he was like ranked like 93rd or 94th in spin rate, and then last year jumped up to number 1 by increasing his spin rate by like 300 or 400 rotations.
Oh yeah, that's how he's just more or less turned the corner the last couple of years, focusing on
and
the
what
spin
he
rate.
Apparently was like 2 years ago. He went out and he was pitching whatever his spin rate was, and then for one inning it jumped up 400, and then the rest of the game it was completely fine. And they asked him about it, and he basically like talked about like an article that someone talked about another pitcher who was using a sticky substance to increase the spin rate. So he basically admitted to using some sort of stickiness, but apparently he's like developed some sort of like clear stuff or something.
Maybe he's just Spider-Man, and it naturally secretes from his glands.
Maybe, I don't know, but I'm real interested to see what happens with this as it's moving on. And he's very vocal. I mean, he's doing a whole thing of like different fan bases recruiting him right now, and it's actually pretty funny. He's like ranking them. He's like, oh yeah, there's some good photoshops, bad photoshops. If you haven't seen it, it's really funny.
You should look good in an Expos uniform. That's not the only potential change of thing. As we've talked about in the past, especially when talking about the now Washington football team dropping the Redskins, that probably the next team to change their name were the Indians. That the Braves and the Blackhawks and the Chiefs very much strongly said they're keeping their names, and I guess the Canucks as well we throw into this now.
Yeah.
But the Indians
and the Braves as well.
But I said the Braves have already said that they are not changing their name. But the Indians said they were going to review it, and that review has come to the conclusion that the Indians' nickname will be retired as soon as they find a new one for 2022.
There's been talks of, what is it, the Cleveland Spiders maybe?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting into, that they're keeping their name, they're retiring the name, but like how they retired Chief Wahoo, there is one more season to sunset it before they go into what the next one is. Probably because of all the laughs that the Washington football team is getting for being called the football team.
Now, the only thing I have, though, with the Indians changing their name is what do we do about Major League? Do we have to, like, CGI it a la Star Wars and change the logo and the names and everything?
No, you just make a remake like you do with all the Disney movies. you get who would you get to play Wild?
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen comes back as a 60-year-old pitcher.
No, you get Adam Sandler to play the Wild Thing now.
No, you got to have Jamie Moyer come in and play. Speaking of old pitchers.
Good lord. But yeah, you get Adam Sandler to star as the Wild Thing, and you just remake it. That's the way to do it.
We'll have Rob Schneider and Napoleon.
Yeah, maybe get
the bench warmers going on.
Yeah, maybe get whatchamacallit. There are many ways you can go, yeah. But that also means that you have to look at your names, and there has been a lot of speculation as to what it could. Ooh, Jesus! Sorry, I was looking at an article for this, and it was so loud that I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Superstar.
Yeah. Well, let me restart that segment. I hate auto-playing ads. But yeah, you get Adam Sandler and other popular comedy actors, maybe Ice-T in some capacity. But yeah, that you have to figure out what the name is going to be, and that has gone on some things that they were called the spiders at one time. Yes. That's been one that is popular on social media, but the problem I have is that more or less sounds like a minor league team to me.
Yeah.
That gives the wrong thing, and that's the problem with a lot of these nicknames, that all the good ones for me, more or less all the good ones have been already taken by other major league teams, whether in baseball or the other four sports.
I think they should just call them the Drew Carries.
Yeah.
Cleveland Rocks.
They were called the Naps at one point because of having Hall of Famer Nap LaJoy, and some speculation was said to call them the Lindors, but Francisco Lindor is a popular trade candidate at the moment. So.
I think the name the Naps is a bit of a sleeper.
Yeah. A popular one has been the Rockers because of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that I would vote for, because that's probably the best one out of the possible. They could also be the Lakers or the Great Lakes because they're right on one of the lakes, and there is precedent for teams in different major sports sharing the same nickname. So, Blue Sox is an option, considering there's White Sox and Red Sox. But who wears a blue sock? What's its navy blue? Yeah, the Blues are also one, which is another old nickname. And others, Unions, Castles, Kyoga, and, as I said before, the Buckeyes, which actually you said like Buckeyes always Ohio State. It's not just Ohio State. The Cleveland Buckeyes were a Negro League team from 1942 to 1950, and their hats in the 1948 season are one of them is in the exact same colors as the Indians are, the navy blue with the red lettering.
Well, speaking of the Negro Leagues...
Yeah, and I was just going to use that as a segue.
Perfect segue. So we might have some new stat changes here coming on.
It's not might, we are.
Yeah,
Uh, MLB has officially designated the Negro Leagues as a major league team. That is, that the Negro Leagues will now be considered, all those stats are considered uh, stats that will count towards major league careers. And the short answer to what that means is that it is an absolute nightmare because a lot of those games, the schedules are missing, and the box scores are lost to history. So this is going to be a multi-decade process, kind of like how there has been a process over the last 30, 40 years to go back to games before 1984, which was when Major League Baseball centralized all the scoring departments to the league office, and you officially knew what the scores were. But they've gone back. That process has gone back, and it's even discovered a no-hitter that had been lost to history until that point because of a box score not being clear about whether there was a single or a walk to the lone.
I mean,
baseman.
one of the other things is Josh Gibson hit 441, so that would top one of the highest batting averages of all time as well.
Yeah, there might have to be a qualifier for batting averages, but what isn't a qualifier is the everyone knows for the longest time Willie Mays 660 home runs. That's the gold standard and considered one of the highest legitimate home run totals. And before Albert, and even with guys like Albert Pujols and stuff, considered considered alongside Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron as the three true legitimate totals. That total might actually go up because of the Negro League home runs. That it could be 661 or 662. And we also you have the other totals, like I said, that how many people are now in the 500 club because of Negro League home runs? How does pitching stand? And as you said, the batting average.
Yeah, and also with Josh Gibson, it's like rumored he hit like 900 home runs. So, how does that factor in at this point?
Well, as said, that they're gonna have to look at. They're gonna have to scour what resources they can. Some they might have to say we know he has more home runs or wins, but we just can't find them.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a project that keeps researchers very busy for the next several decades.
Yeah.
But it also is probably a long time coming. That for decades baseball has said that Negro leagues were a big part of their history, and to their credit, it was the alternative while baseball kept many talented people off their rosters just because of the color of their skin. So while it's probably going, as I said, going to be a headache to determine what exactly happened in those games.
I mean, even the players during that time, like Jackie Robinson, even said like it was difficult just to figure out what his batting average was because he wasn't sure what were official games and which ones were exhibitions. So these stat nerds are really gonna have. Is that offensive? Stat nerds. Statisticians.
Everything's offensive these days.
They're gonna have a real hard time trying to figure this out, but I guess it creates jobs now.
Yeah, and it's also as I said, it comes full circle to considering these guys who weren't able to play much or at all in the major leagues finally getting the recognition that they deserve, being able to stand alongside the greats of their time and be compared, even if they weren't playing on the same grounds.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to be a nightmare to figure out all this.
Yeah. What's also going to be, it was, I mean, I guess not a nightmare, but Clemson and Notre Dame had a rematch yesterday, and Clemson kicked the crap out of Notre Dame, just as I sort of figured. I mean, when they played several weeks ago, a couple months ago, Clemson was without probably number one overall pick Trevor Lawrence because of COVID. And Notre Dame was up, and then it went to like double or triple overtime or whatever, and Notre Dame just squeaked out the win. And when push came to shove, Clemson won yesterday, 34-10. Notre Dame couldn't even do anything. It was just pretty sad. So Ohio State won. So the new standings are Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, who hasn't played too many games, mostly because of COVID, and then Notre Dame number 4. So those guys will fight it out. So it'll be Alabama versus Notre Dame, Clemson versus Ohio State, and then winner of those games will play each other. Which it should probably be Alabama and Clemson. And who wins that? Oh God, I don't know. That's going to be one hell of a game, probably. So that's going to be real interesting.
And it also, once again, that a great performance has been snubbed out of the playoffs with Cincinnati, who blew out 7 of the 9 teams on their schedule, and beat 3 ranked teams, snubbed from the playoff schedule for the usual Alabama, Clemson, Ohio, Notre Dame.
Yeah. Even if Notre Dame somehow was able to win yesterday and give Clemson a second loss, the voters were probably going to keep all 4 of those teams there, even with Texas A&M right behind them at number 5.
Yeah.
Just because it's Trevor Lawrence, they're going to want to keep him in there for the game. That's going to be the big money draw. Notre Dame, obviously winning would have kept them going. Alabama wasn't going to drop. Ohio State played another game as well. So it's going to stay that way anyway.
It's why I don't really follow the college football playoffs. It seems like all the time that same teams all the time. There's no.
I know they opened it up these last couple years by adding 2 more teams to make it a playoff. But there's so many college teams out there that only 4. I mean, for the longest time it was only 2. I mean, I guess baseball had that for so many years. It was the division winners.
But baseball's only 30 teams. College football is
that's way more.
There's hundreds of teams.
I mean, there's games that when I'm watching Notre Dame kick the crap out of them, they're winning 35-3, and it's well, who are they even playing? Are they playing the Siena College football team that doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, it's dumb. It's really dumb. It's a bad system. They have to clean it up.
And you can't have it like college football because the only time they can really squeeze in the playoffs is Christmas to New Year's. Yeah. It's not like they don't have 2 months to settle this out because also the schools will say, hey, these kids are supposed to be learning.
Yeah. So, well, they're not really learning. They're
but
taking super easy classes.
They at least try to put on the facsimile of it.
Yeah, like a nice facade there. Just to transition to basketball a little bit, and then we'll talk about the recap of football.
Did you see the toenail clipper?
No.
No, Anthony Davis was, I believe it was him. Was on the bench and was clipping his toenails, and everyone is on social media is like, "What the heck are you doing? That is completely gross."
You went from the brow to the toes.
Well, no, he's on. Well, first of all, he's on the Lakers. How did he? That's not. Is this his way of saying trade me to the Clippers?
Well, actually, the Clippers are in some hot water for apparently doing possible illegal stuff to get Kawhi Leonard. So I don't know. I guess he's uncovering the story here.
Some good old poaching.
Yep. But no. Anyway, so do you remember our good friend Rudy Gobert?
Oh, the guy who thought coronavirus was a joke and then single-handedly shut down all 4 major pro sports.
Yeah. Well, for his reward for doing such a thing, he was given a 5-year, $205 million contract extension by the Utah Jazz. It is the largest deal for a center in league history. It is now the 3rd highest contract in basketball history, just behind Giannis and Russell Westbrook. But what's funny is Rudy's contract could have been for a swell $228 million supermax contract, but identical to what Giannis just signed with the Bucks. But Gobert decided not to get the full supermax because he wanted to have some financial flexibility to sign like Donovan Mitchell and some other guys more around him. But that's only like $20 million over the course of 5 years. I mean, some of these NBA players are making like $35 million a year.
Yeah.
That's absolutely nothing. If you really wanted to like build a team better, it would have taken like only $100 million.
Yeah. But still, good for him for saying I wanna give back to the team a bit.
Yeah.
Those people
a
are few
bit,
and far.
but it's not
Yeah.
much.
But those
it's only
peop-
like $5 million a year.
Those people are few and far between across the sports nowadays.
Yeah. So I guess he's getting a little bit better with sharing stuff. Shared germs, now he's sharing money.
I guess.
But yeah, so that's going on there. It looks like James Harden still wants out of Houston. That's not really new. Basketball is underway. I guess the biggest story out of that is Kyrie Irving of the Nets when he went over by the Celtics to play the first preseason game or whatever. He was saging, and he said it's a cultural thing, and he's trying to cleanse the air. So he's basically just doing some like smoke stuff on the court, and he says he plans to do that on all the courts as long as teams allow him to.
Which I can see a few probably saying, "What the heck are you doing? Get that
I
hippie thing away from me."
Yeah, I don't know. Kyrie Irving, very talented ball handler, one of the smoothest I've ever seen, but oh boy, is he a headache and a basket case, flat earther.
Yeah, I mean, if he feels comfortable with that, I'm not going to stop him. I just can see a couple of the teams being like, no, don't.
Yeah, I mean, also speaking of that, to transition over to the NFL.
As we run up on time, we spent like 40 minutes talking about everything. We haven't talked about the NFL.
Yes. So, Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Juju, he has been doing TikToks on this center logo of like all the teams, and some of these teams are just like not happy about this. He says he's going to continue to do it. I mean, Juju's just been sort of like a fun, happy-go-lucky guy, as we've seen like with guys like Nick Swisher or Francisco Lindor. So the fans love him in Pittsburgh, but other teams are just not liking it. They think it's disrespectful. When he played the Cowboys, he tried to do the Terrell Owens thing or whatever on the big star in the middle. Teams are just not having it. So that's sort of like a bit of a little punchy thing going on. But let's look at some of the scores that are going down today.
Yeah.
It's like almost 3 o'clock now. The Falcons are up big on the Buccaneers halfway through the third, 24-7. So Tom Brady's overcome that from the Falcons before, so don't count him out yet.
The Patriots and Dolphins are playing a baseball game with a 7-6 score.
Yeah, that's not going on too well. Cowboys, 49ers are slugging it out. Titans and Lions. Titans are up on the Lions right now, which is big. Because the Colts are up on the Texans right now, and those two teams are fighting for the Southern Division title.
Yeah, the Rams will start soon their off day by beating the Jets.
I hope so. Ravens are kicking the crap out of the Jaguars, 26-7 at this moment. They're got 9 minutes left in the third, so that's not really helping the Jets right now. Eagles, Cardinals have yet to play. Same with the Chiefs and Saints. That looks to be a good game as Drew Brees is coming back from his multiple rib fractures and collapsed or punctured lung, whatever it is. Chargers beat the Raiders in a pretty epic game the other night on Thursday. That was a crazy game. Marcus Mariota coming in for the Raiders late in the game, trying to get everything going, but Justin Herbert was able to keep things going, and the Chargers won in overtime. Yesterday the Bills played, and the Broncos barely showed up. Looks like Josh Allen is looking to be a top quarterback right now, having another hell of a season, throwing for like 360 yards, and the Packers beat the Panthers to give them an 11-3 record.
Yeah.
So we've got a whole bunch of things going. Oh, and Seattle's beating the aforementioned Washington football team.
Yeah, the football team, right? Yeah. Some of these games are important. Like the Dolphins, they're 7-6 lead over the Patriots. If they lose, the Ravens are facing Jacksonville, so they could easily leapfrog into the final AFC playoffs spot with Dolphins'
the
loss.
Browns have to play the Giants tonight, I believe. I was looking at the Monday night. Yeah, Steelers-Bengals are the Monday night game. So that'll be an important game for the Browns.
And the Giants, too.
And the Giants as well, especially with the Washington football team losing at this moment.
Yeah, and I think the Giants hold the tiebreaker, do they?
Yes, because the Giants have beaten Washington twice, sweeping both games. So, so this is big.
A Washington loss and a Giants win puts them.
And remember, just a reminder, the Giants are home, so they have that home turf disadvantage.
Or home turf advantage, or turf advantage, depending on who you ask.
So it might hurt the Browns, might hurt the Giants, might hurt both of them, or maybe
someone will be hurt.
Everyone's just a crybaby, and the turf's actually really fine.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see that for next week as we come to the end of our time. Joe, thank you. Are we going to have an episode between Christmas and New Year's?
We might. We'll have to figure things out.
Yeah.
It's our channel. We'll make time. We might not make time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
There'll be something.
We'll see what happens. Until our next episode, it's been a pleasure. Stay safe. Wear a mask. We only got a few more months left to go with this, hopefully.
And Festivus, everybody. It's a Festivus miracle.
I have so many grievances.
All right. See ya.